Have you ever wondered what hidden forces shaped the voices and lives of country music's most iconic stars? When we think of gritty ballads, heart-wrenching melodies, and rebellious spirits, we often imagine wide-brimmed hats and broken hearts. Yet behind the scenes, many legends shared one habit that bound them together as much as their passion for music: heavy smoking. Some believed it gave them creative spark or calm in an unforgiving industry. Others insisted it was just part of the culture, a rebellious badge that fit the hard-scrabble stories they sang. But the costs were real, and over time, each star wrestled with the thrill and the torment of a life stained by smoke. Johnny Cash stood at the crossroads between destruction and redemption. His deep, resonant voice echoed with pain, and cigarettes became a constant companion. People whispered that the haze around him felt like armor warding off personal demons. Even when he tried to let go, the damage was done, and his voice carried those scars to the end. Fans still wonder if the habit enriched his artistry or quickened his decline. Waylon Jennings carried a similar burden. Pioneering the outlaw movement, he clutched multiple packs a day to fuel late-night sessions. Even after heart trouble sent alarming signs, he found it hard to quit for good. Every rebellious anthem he sang came laced with a rasp that hinted at years of smoke. Eventually, severe health scares forced him to confront the darker side of that edgy persona he had embraced. Merle Haggard wore his struggles openly, forging hits that spoke to the working class. Cigarettes were part of that gritty image, and his voice grew more weathered over time. When lung cancer struck and part of his lung had to be removed, the link was impossible to deny. Though he persevered, fans wondered what further masterpieces might have emerged if he'd broken free of the addiction that haunted him for decades. George Jones, often hailed as the greatest voice in country, also couldn't evade smoking's grip. He sang about heartbreak, and his personal life matched the turmoil. Some claimed the nicotine rush steadied him in lonely moments, while others saw it as another vice dragging him down. Health problems mounted as he struggled to abandon the final cigarette. The once pristine vocals he commanded developed a scratchy echo of a lifetime tethered to smoke. Willie Nelson eventually traded tobacco for marijuana, sparking endless debate. In his early career, he too grabbed a quick cigarette backstage. Later, he became the face of a different kind of smoke, proudly claiming it was less harmful than cigarettes. Whether his lungs truly benefited remains uncertain. While he maintained an enviable vitality, rumors linger that even marijuana smoke left a mark, though not as severe as the alternative he left behind. Tammy Wynette battled multiple health crises, and many suspected her smoking habit played a greater role than she admitted. Anxiety seemed to follow her, and cigarettes reportedly eased the strain. As her health problems intensified, doctors urged her to quit, but she stayed silent on the issue publicly. She took that piece of her life with her, singing about heartbreak and survival while rarely acknowledging how smoke might have hastened her medical woes. Loretta Lynn tried cigarettes in her early days, a choice that didn't stand out in a time when many up-and-comers smoked. Over the years, she saw friends succumb to smoking-related diseases and decided it wasn't worth the risk. She quit before serious damage took hold and urged others to consider the same. That decision may have helped her voice remain strong long after others faltered, and she became a beacon for quitting at a time when few champions existed. Hank Williams Sr. lived fast and died young at 29. Rumors abound about liquor and pills, but cigarettes also stalked him from an early age. The rasp in his voice likely owed something to that endless chain of smoke. Some wonder if he would have survived longer had he tempered those vices, but the heartbreak in his songs might not have burned so brightly. His legacy stands as both a triumph and a warning about living hard and singing harder. Hank Williams Jr. carved his own rowdy persona, brandishing a southern rock style that heaped more fuel on a rebellious image. Cigarettes were a mainstay in smoky bar rooms and behind-the-scenes sessions. Even a near-fatal fall didn't halt his habits entirely. Fans noticed his voice shift, deepening and roughening as years passed, and many pointed to the lingering effects of smoke. He rarely discussed regrets, but the toll was there in every stormy lyric. Chris Christopherson balanced multiple callings: soldier, poet, actor, musician, and still found time for heavy smoking. Stress from defying his family's expectations may have pushed him toward it. Over time, his voice took on a husky timbre that admirers found magnetic. Eventually, he left the habit behind, but not without bearing the lasting imprint of years spent in smoky corners. That gravelly edge remains a reminder of how destructive choices shape even the strongest talents. David Allan Coe never shied from controversy, flaunting a heavy smoking habit alongside provocative lyrics. He saw it as part of his renegade charm, refusing to yield to social norms. As years wore on, the edgy grit in his voice turned to strain. Though he rarely discussed health, insiders whispered about persistent coughs and breathlessness. Even fans who cheered his wild persona wondered if that habit stole precious time from a career defined by fearlessness. Conway Twitty projected a polished image, but behind the love ballads, he was no stranger to cigarettes. Those closest to him say the rigors of touring pushed him deeper into the habit. He died from an abdominal aneurysm, leaving fans questioning how much smoking might have weakened him. The gentle tone of his voice remains timeless, but the secrecy around his addiction underscores the hidden battles so many legends faced away from the stage lights. Patsy Cline's life ended abruptly in a plane crash at 30, yet she too leaned on cigarettes behind closed doors. Rumor had it she'd smoke quietly in dressing rooms to calm her nerves before performing. The stress of stardom and the relentless schedule weighed on her, possibly compelling her to reach for that temporary comfort. We'll never know whether she might have quit if she'd lived longer. All we have is the legacy of a voice that glowed with equal parts vulnerability and steel. Porter Wagoner wore rhinestones and a bright smile on stage, hosting television shows that drew countless new fans to country music. When cameras stopped rolling, though, he was often seen chain-smoking in the backstage corridors. Eventually, health struggles emerged, but he continued until his last days, never letting fans see the strain behind his lively persona. That dual existence reveals how inextricably cigarettes wove themselves into the tapestry of country stardom, even for those projecting a pristine exterior. Charlie Rich, the Silver Fox, fused country with pop and jazz influences, earning acclaim for smooth vocals. But he also turned to cigarettes to mitigate stress, particularly when purists criticized his cross-genre approach. Over time, that refined voice grew huskier, and some wondered if his constant smoking cut short a later chapter in his career. Though he seldom spoke about it, the signs were there in his final performances, tinged with regret for what might have been. Roger Miller charmed everyone with his wit and playful songs like King of the Road, yet behind that laughter lurked a serious smoking habit. He reportedly scribbled lyrics in a swirl of smoke, fueling a frenetic creative style. In time, the toll on his lungs became undeniable, culminating in lung and throat cancer. Even so, he maintained a brave face, never letting despair overshadow his humor. His legacy stands as a reminder that laughter can coexist with darkness, but it doesn't erase the cost. Eddie Arnold carried a wholesome public persona, singing ballads that appealed across generations. Yet he found himself in the same habit as many peers, lighting up to endure the grind of the music business. Observers say he managed it better than most and eventually cut back, preserving a voice that stayed strong for decades. The contrast between his polished reputation and that hidden vice illustrates how deeply entrenched smoking was, even among country's more conservative stars. Marty Robbins raced cars, wrote Western ballads, and sang with undeniable flair. He also wrestled with cigarettes, which may have worsened the heart issues leading to multiple attacks. Adrenaline and stress likely mixed with nicotine, setting a risky stage for his health. Still, he kept performing and pushing boundaries, unwilling to give up the passions that defined him. Fans often wonder if a smoke-free Robbins might have extended his extraordinary life by several more vibrant years. Don Gibson was known for tender ballads that dripped with sorrow, and privately he grappled with depression. Smoking seemed to provide fleeting relief during his heaviest bouts, or so those closest to him believed. He rarely spoke of personal troubles, choosing instead to pour anguish into his songs. It's unclear whether the habit significantly shortened his time in the spotlight, but many suspect it contributed to the health issues that surfaced later. His music remains a testament to the fragile line between heartbreak and hope. Boxcar Willie traveled the globe embodying a hobo persona that celebrated the romance of train tracks and open roads. With such a grueling tour schedule, cigarettes became a common companion, offering a quick fix for fatigue or nerves. Over time, the cough he brushed off grew more pronounced. Only when health concerns mounted did fans realize the gravity of his habit. Despite the toll, he preserved a devoted following, his folksy sincerity shining through every performance he managed until the end. Red Sovine specialized in tear-jerking recitations that could stir even the hardest hearts. Fans saw a gentle storyteller, but behind the curtain, he was rarely without a cigarette in hand. The comforting hush of his narrative stood in stark contrast to the risk he took every time he lit up. As years passed, his voice thinned, raising speculation that heavy smoking carved away some of its richness. Still, his emotional approach lingered, a testament to how artistry can persist even when health fails. These 21 legends illustrate how deeply cigarettes were woven into the soul of country music. The rebellious aura of a singer cradling a smoke felt authentic in an industry built on raw emotion and hardscrabble tales. For some, the habit ended in a swift, tragic decline. For others, it became a tension they carried for decades, shaping voices that left audiences breathless. Even so, fans found romance in that haze, believing it added mystery to the outlaws, heartbreakers, and dreamers who defined the genre. Along the way, a handful managed to quit or at least limit the damage, standing as rare examples of self-preservation in a culture that glamorized risk. Loretta Lynn urged others to break free, and Eddie Arnold quietly stepped back from his habit. Yet those successes were overshadowed by an industry slow to acknowledge the harsh realities. Managers and record labels often looked the other way, fearing that reining in an artist's vices might dull the authenticity fueling record sales. That contradiction reveals a shared complicity in the danger. It also prompts a lingering question. Did cigarettes truly enhance the music, or were they an illusion of depth that masked the toll on an artist's body? The rawness we adore might well have sprung from heartbreak, creativity, and the short bursts of relief nicotine provided. Or it could be that these performers were destined for greatness regardless, and all the smoke did was shave years off their craft. Fans can only speculate, torn between admiration for the music and sorrow for the price paid. Behind every chart-topping hit and sold-out show lurked the quiet hush of a lighter flicking open in the darkness. When the lights dimmed and the crowds went home, many of these legends faced restless nights with a cigarette smoldering between their fingers. Despite the triumph and adoration, anxiety, loneliness, and physical strain nagged at them. Cigarettes offered a fleeting solace, and that closeness might have fueled some of the greatest country songs ever recorded, all while leading them down a path of gradual decline. Still, the art endures. The heartbreak in Hank Sr.'s songs, the raw confessions of Johnny Cash, the smooth tenderness of Patsy Cline, and the renegade cries of Waylon Jennings live on in countless playlists. Their smoking habits have become footnotes that color our understanding of their struggles. In some ways, that knowledge deepens the respect we hold for their achievements, reminding us that greatness is often forged under punishing circumstances. We can't deny the damage. Too many left us too soon or suffered debilitating illnesses that robbed them of the vigor they once brought to the stage. The roads to heartbreak and tragedy seem endless in country music, but perhaps it's that same sense of vulnerability that makes the genre resonate so powerfully. Each puff of smoke might have been a small act of defiance against the storms of life, yet it was also a slow surrender to health complications. In the end, these 21 icons remain both cautionary tales and inspirations. Their lived experiences remind us that the myth of the outlaw can carry real consequences, and that authenticity can extract a painful toll. Yet it's hard to imagine country music without their gravelly drawls and smoky mystique. Maybe that's the paradox. The darkness behind their voices elevated the songs we cherish, even as it pulled some of them toward grim fates. As newer generations take the stage, the romance of cigarettes fades, replaced by fresh challenges and changing social norms. Artists today can learn from the pain etched into the stories of those who came before, preserving the spirit of rebellion while dodging the pitfalls that ensnared so many. There will always be an appetite for raw honesty, but maybe now it won't require a pack of smokes to bolster one's credibility. Lessons are learned slowly, but the memories of lost or suffering legends can serve as a powerful caution. So we remember them as they were, haunted dreamers, fierce fighters, and poet souls who channeled hardship into music that still makes us laugh, cry, and reflect. The haze of their addictions was real, but so was their brilliance. Even now, as we cue up one of their classics, we feel that emotional lightning strike. Perhaps that's the final measure of their legacy, forging unforgettable songs despite the burdens that dogged them. And in that tension between inspiration and downfall, country music finds its strongest heartbeat. Controversies and rumors swirled around these figures, fueling fan gossip that only boosted their allure. Johnny Cash's rebellious streak led to whispers he'd chain smoke through a stressful night, struggling to catch his breath. Waylon Jennings was said to have clashed with label executives who urged him to quit, though he stood firm on living his own way. Loretta Lynn's pivot to quitting Advocate surprised many, sparking talk of a private scare behind her turnaround. George Jones's messy no-shows were sometimes blamed on not just liquor, but the constant drag of cigarettes that made him even more unpredictable. Merle Haggard faced murmurs he might have prolonged his career if he'd reined in his smoking sooner. Eddie Arnold, too, couldn't escape chatter that every gentle ballad hid a secret stress reliever. While rarely confirmed, these controversies formed a vital strand in their legends, blending stark truth with the rumor mill that gave country music its drama. With every rumor and revelation, one fact remains clear. These legends were more than mere voices on a record. They were flawed souls who poured every scrap of life, addictions included, into music that stirred millions. Even if certain rumors were off base, they pointed to a universal truth. Genuine art often stems from real struggle. Fans might have speculated about hidden medical scares or legal threats tied to these habits, but what mattered was the raw honesty that bled through each track. Their stories of heartbreak and rebellion weren't publicity stunts. They were lived experiences shaped by the haze of addiction. That legacy endures because new listeners still feel the authenticity in every note. As we reflect on the heavy smoke drifting through their lives, we remember that behind every controversy stood a body of work as resilient as it was riveting, a testament to how country music transforms even its darkest struggles into timeless songs. In the end, their legacies remain a reminder that raw honesty, forged by brilliance and hardship alike, can transcend any haze and shine on in the hearts of fans worldwide. If you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe, and also click the next video shown on your screen.